The bride disappeared in the middle of the wedding, leaving her dress with a red stain in the bathroom. The ancient church bell rang 3 solemn times during the wedding of Sophia and Ethan. The sound of the organ began to rise within the old church, slowly and reverently. Sophia took her father David's arm and stepped out of the room. All eyes turned toward her, as if the entire world had been holding its breath for this moment. "My daughter, you look absolutely stunning," David whispered. "If your mom were here, she'd be crying her eyes out." Sophia smiled, her voice thick with emotion. "Don't make me cry right now, Dad." She walked slowly, the crystal chandeliers casting a shimmering glow over her long white gown. At the end of the aisle stood Ethan in a perfectly tailored black suit, clutching a bouquet of hydrangeas tightly in his hands. Among the rows of guests, Olivia, Ethan's mother, gave a slight nod to Natalie, who stood at the far end of the pews. Natalie returned the look with an unreadable expression, somewhere between admiration and jealousy. The priest stepped forward and opened his prayer book. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in this sacred space to witness a holy union." Prayers, music, and vows echoed through the peaceful, sacred air. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. "Sophia, do you take Ethan to be your husband, to love and honor him in all circumstances, for the rest of your life?" Sophia smiled. "I do." A single clap rose from the back rows, then gradually swelled into a wave of applause. Natalie clenched her fists, her nails pressing deep into her palms. After the ceremony, the reception was held in the garden behind the old abbey. Long tables draped with white lace, red wine shimmering in crystal glasses, and laughter filled the air. "Sophia, come on over here and take a photo with the college crew," called Jason, an old friend. "Hold on a sec, I need something to drink first," Sophia replied. Natalie approached with a cold bottle of water in hand. "Thirsty? Here you go. I just brought this from the cold storage room." Sophia took it. "You're always so thoughtful." She unscrewed the cap and took a big sip. "Make sure to smile extra bright today." "It's your day," Natalie said, smiling in a strange way. A few moments later, as Sophia returned to the photo area, her vision began to blur. I feel a little dizzy." "Sophia? Are you okay?" Ethan rushed over to support her. "I don't know," Sophia clung to his sleeve. Natalie quickly stepped in. "Maybe she's just overwhelmed. Let me take her to her room for a bit of rest, okay Ethan?" He looked at her and nodded. "As long as you're sure she'll be fine." Natalie gently supported Sophia, whispering as they walked. "It's okay, you just need to lie down for a bit." They exited the garden and headed down the stone corridor into the abbey. A maid standing near the door looked on curiously. "Do you need help, miss?" "No need. She's just tired." "I'm the maid of honor, I'll take care of her," Natalie replied calmly. Sophia staggered slightly. Where are we going?" "To the changing room. You'll feel better once you rest a bit." In the church's basement, a thick wooden door had been left open. Natalie helped Sophia down the old stone steps. "Sis, this feels weird, this isn't." "Shoo, just lie down. Everything's fine." Once they disappeared behind the door, the maid murmured to herself, "That's odd, the changing rooms aren't in that direction." Back in the garden, Ethan continued to mingle. "Where's Sophia?" "She's still resting," Natalie reported upon returning. "She just needed a moment. I'll go check on her again." Sophia's sister Grace frowned. "I'll come with you." "No need, really. I've got it," Natalie replied with a smile. Grace stared at her. "Thank you for your concern, Natalie. But don't forget. Sophia is my sister." Natalie bowed her head slightly. "I haven't forgotten that." Time went by. The wedding celebration continued with music and laughter. But no one knew that somewhere, behind thick stone walls, in a place untouched by light, a bride was starting to vanish from her own dream. Sophia's still not back. Ethan glanced at his watch, scanning the crowd, his voice tinged with worry. Natalie stepped up, looking mildly surprised. What? I thought she already came back down. Back down where? Grace asked, hurrying over. She's been resting for over half an hour. That's strange. Mrs. Margaret looked up from her orange juice, her eyes instantly scanning the crowd for her daughter. Natalie, you said Sophia was resting in the changing room, right? Yes, ma'am. I took her there after the main hall. She seemed a little dizzy, probably just needed to lie down, Natalie responded quickly. I'll go check, Grace said anxiously and headed toward the hallway that led to the church's changing rooms. I'm coming too, said Mrs. Margaret, standing abruptly, her napkin falling from her lap. Ethan made a move to follow, but Mr. Gabriel held him back. Stay calm, son. Maybe she just needs some space. Brides often do. Ethan shook his head. You don't understand, Dad. Sophia never disappears without saying something. The door to the changing room swung open. Grace entered first. Sophia? No answer. The room was unusually quiet, a faint scent of perfume still hanging in the air. Sophia? Margaret called out louder, scanning the space. A large mirror on the wall reflected the soft light from a small high window. A pristine white wedding dress hung neatly on a rack. But near the bathroom door, something felt off. Grace, do you see that? Margaret asked, her voice trembling. Grace stepped closer. Oh my God. On the floor, sprawled across the old tiles, was a second white gown, soaked in blood, as if dragged through a pool of deep red. Nearby lay a torn bridal veil, scattered hydrangea petals streaked with crimson. Mom, that's real blood, Grace backed away, her hands trembling. Margaret collapsed to the floor, her face ashen. No, no, this can't be. 5 minutes later, police sirens wailed at the church gates. 3 patrol cars pulled up as guests froze, confused murmurs spreading quickly. What's going on? One of Ethan's friends asked. I heard someone found blood in the bride's room. Could it be an accident? Or, something worse? An officer in a black uniform approached. I'm Lieutenant Robert. We received an emergency call. No one is to leave the premises. Ethan rushed forward. What's going on? I'm the groom. Where's Sophia? Have you found her yet? We're working on it. Please remain calm, Robert said in a firm tone. Miss Sophia is currently not accounted for on the church grounds, correct? She's missing. Oh God, this can't be happening, Margaret sobbed. Natalie stood off to the side, arms crossed. I spoke to her less than an hour ago. There's no way she just vanished. Robert turned to her. And you are? I'm her best friend, maid of honor. I took her to rest in the room, Natalie replied, her eyes steady but her fists clenched. Did you see anyone enter or leave the area after you left? No. I didn't see anyone. Didn't see, or don't remember. Robert pressed. Natalie shook her head, lips tight. I'm not lying. Another officer rushed over. Lieutenant. We reviewed the north hallway cameras, no sign of Ms. Sophia leaving since 3:17 p.m. What time exactly did you bring her into the room? Robert asked. Around 3:10, Natalie answered. She wasn't feeling well. I thought she needed rest. So you were the last person to see the victim? Robert's gaze was sharp. Natalie looked down. I suppose, yes. Mr. Mark, an older guest, whispered to his wife, I saw someone heading toward the basement. Thought it was a staff member at the time. Are you sure? She whispered back, visibly concerned. I didn't pay much attention, but thinking back, that dress. I think it was white. By late afternoon, media outlets had arrived outside the church gates. Word is the bride disappeared. There was blood in the dressing room. Is this a wedding day murder? A young reporter from New York 24H pushed a microphone through the fence. Can anyone confirm whether the bride, Sophia Bennett, has left the church? Mr. Gabriel stepped forward, his face grim. No comment at this time. Please respect our grief. The videographer panned the camera, zooming in coldly on Mrs. Margaret's stunned face. A merciless shutter click. Ethan frantically flung open every door, every room. Sophia. Where are you? Answer me. Grace ran after him. Ethan, calm down. The police are investigating. No. We can't wait. She couldn't have just vanished like this. Ethan roared. She would never do that. Sophia never abandons anyone. Mr. Gabriel grabbed his son. We need to stay rational, Ethan. Rational? Rational? While she could be hurt, bleeding, crying for help in some freezing basement. Ethan turned toward Natalie. You were the last person who saw her. Tell us. What did you really do? Natalie froze. I only brought her to the room. I didn't do anything. You're lying. Ethan. Stop. Grace pushed between them. This is not the time to start throwing accusations. Robert stepped in. I ask everyone to remain calm. We are coordinating the search. All signs indicate that Ms. Sophia never left the premises. Then why hasn't anyone found her? Ethan snapped. Why are you still standing around talking? Natalie quietly backed into a deserted hallway. Hands trembling, she pulled out her phone and sent a message to an unnamed contact. Everything's a mess. I didn't expect there to be that much blood. The reply came instantly. You idiot. Don't raise suspicion. Keep your mouth shut. Natalie bit her lip, deleted the exchange, and returned to the chaotic crowd. At 8:30 p.m., police decided to lock down the entire church. All entrances to the basement, side chapels, and old chambers were sealed. A flashlight swept across the ancient stone floor, catching faint, dark brown stains. Lieutenant Robert. There are strange marks in the hallway behind the chapel, a young officer called out. Robert nodded. Focused the search team in that area. Meanwhile, Ethan collapsed at the altar, hands covering his face, lips trembling. Sophia, please, be alive. Ugh. Sophia moaned softly, her trembling hand brushing along the cold stone beneath her. Her head throbbed violently. No light, no sound, only suffocating darkness and the stifling dampness that clung to her chest. Is anyone there? She tried to call out, her voice hoarse. No answer. What's happening? She sat up, bumping the back of her head against the stone wall. The dizziness hit her like a wave. She shut her eyes, then opened them again. Still total darkness. Where am I? Sophia panted. Her hand fumbled around, hitting a thick wooden door locked from the outside. She banged on it hard. Can anyone hear me? Help. Only an echo replied. After a while, her breathing steadied. She leaned against the wall, eyes shut, trying to remember. Why hasn't anyone come looking for me? Do they think I ran away? The thought made her heart sink. No, that's impossible. Ethan wouldn't believe that. Neither would Mom. But what if someone set her up? Sophia remembered 1 week before the wedding. Natalie had met her alone at the bridal boutique. Are you sure you're really happy? She asked, lightly touching the lace on the dress Sophia was trying on. Of course, Sophia smiled brightly. Ethan's the best man I've ever known. And if someone else, loved him even more than you do, what would you do? Sophia laughed. Is this a test? Who could possibly love him more than I do? Natalie said nothing. She lowered her head, smoothing the hem of the gown, trying to hide the coldness creeping into her eyes. 2 days before the wedding, in Natalie's room, lit only by the dim glow over her old vanity. On the table, a glass water bottle and a small white vial. Justin entered, knocking softly. You called me over. What's going on? Do you still have that thing? Justin frowned. What thing? The diuretic you used during military service. The mild one. Not dangerous, but enough to knock someone out if they're weak. Justin hesitated. What are you planning? Just a prank. I'm not killing anyone. You're talking about Sophia, aren't you? You've lost it, Natalie. She stole Ethan from me, Natalie whispered. She doesn't love him the way I do. I know that. Justin stepped back, shaking his head. I'm not helping you. But you'll stay quiet, she stared at him. You owe me. I've kept your secret for 5 years. Justin clenched his jaw. Damn it. Wedding morning. Natalie carefully poured water from the glass bottle into a clear plastic one. She added a few drops from the white vial and shook it. The liquid looked no different than ordinary water in the morning light. Can you bring this bottle down to the cold storage? She asked Martha, the older maid with silver hair and sharp eyes. Martha frowned. Why not let the bride choose? Sophia prefers this kind. I'm the maid of honor, Natalie smiled. Don't you trust me? Martha nodded slowly. I only trust God. People, everyone has a dark side. Natalie smirked. And God stays silent when we need him most. When Sophia drank the water, Natalie stood a few steps away, unblinking. As soon as Sophia grew dizzy, every move had already been calculated. Let me take her to her room, Natalie said quickly. It took only 15 minutes to get Sophia into the basement already prepared. Natalie had borrowed the church keys. I'm sorry, Sophia, Natalie whispered as she laid her down on the cold stone floor. You weren't supposed to have what belongs to me. She locked the door and returned to the reception, wearing the softest smile she'd ever mustered. That night, Natalie sat in her room, staring at her phone as news alerts flashed non-stop. Bride vanishes before wedding. Bloodstains at church turn celebration into a crime scene. She texted Justin, everything's going according to plan. Justin replied, you've gone too far. Natalie didn't answer. The next morning, Natalie went to Margaret's house under the pretense of offering comfort. Grace didn't let her in, leaving her standing at the entrance. I'm heartbroken, Natalie said. Sophia was my best friend. Margaret didn't look at her. I find it hard to understand, Natalie. My daughter was with you. And then she disappeared. I don't know anything more than anyone else. Margaret turned around. I hope that's true. Because if I ever find out someone hurt Sophia, they will never forget what comes next. In the basement darkness, Sophia trembled, recalling every look, every word, every time Natalie had brushed her hair, pretended to shield her in college. It was all fake. She remembered the one time Natalie got drunk, sobbing in their dorm room. You have no idea. You have everything I ever wanted. Back then, Sophia had dismissed it as drunken heartbreak. Now, it echoed like a warning she'd failed to hear. At the police station, Robert received a report from the tech officer. Lieutenant, we're reviewing secondary camera angles. There's a blurry clip showing a figure dragging something toward the basement stairs. Send it to me immediately, Robert said. He stared at the footage. The figure was slender, hair tied back, wearing a long navy blue dress. Maid of honor, he muttered. Above ground, the media exploded like a storm. Sophia Bennett, daughter of Lady Margaret Collins, mysteriously disappears before her wedding. Blood at the scene raises suspicions of foul play. Sources claim the bride had a history of mental instability. Was this a runaway bride case or a well-hidden crime? Grace slammed her phone down, her voice trembling. This is disgusting, they're blaming Sophia. Margaret clutched her head, eyes red. We shouldn't have let the press in. They'll tear her apart. Ethan stood in front of the cameras, swarmed by reporters. Mr. Ethan. Some say Sophia was in contact with an ex right before the wedding. Any comment? He clenched his fists. Sophia is not that kind of person. Then what do you think happened? Another voice shouted. Could this be a staged escape from the marriage? Ethan shouted, enough. If you're only here to dig dirt, then get the hell out. Mr. Gabriel stepped forward, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. No more answers. Let's go. In the waiting room, Natalie sat pale-faced. Justin approached her. The media's saying she ran off with an ex. Do you know anyone? He asked quietly. Natalie shrugged. I'm just as confused as everyone else. Justin looked at her, suspicion in his eyes. You don't seem confused. Because I'm tired, Natalie replied flatly. Tired of seeing such a beautiful day turn into tragedy. Down in the basement, Sophia remained curled up in the dark. Maybe, they really think I ran away. The thought stabbed into her heart. Could they truly believe a social media rumor more than they believe her? No. Ethan wouldn't think that. Neither would Mom. But she recalled the way the media stared at her, remembered how easily people twisted everything. Sophia once dropped out of college. That becomes, Sophia has a history of instability. Sophia once cried in front of the school after being forced to switch majors. That becomes, Sophia shows signs of mental fragility. She held her head. No. I'm not crazy. I didn't run away. Footsteps pounded above. Sophia screamed. Hey. Is anyone there? A faint male voice echoed back. Check the rear corridor. She caught the words, United States, and rear corridor. Was someone searching the area above? Her eyes lit up. She grabbed a remaining high heel and banged it hard against the door. Help me. I'm here. Above, Lieutenant Robert was directing the search team. Split into 3 groups. Follow the northern basement map. The west wing hasn't been thoroughly checked. A young officer named Michael approached. Sir, a witness named Mark said he saw a figure dragging something down the western stairs. Thought it was a staff member at the time. Check it immediately, Robert ordered. Bring flashlights and thermal cams. Outside, public opinion was relentless. A runaway bride? What a disgrace. She probably met her old flame. Wouldn't be surprised if they planned the whole thing. The press made a scene over a little blood. If they had a corpse, they'd turn it into a Netflix series. Mrs. Martha, the church's longtime housekeeper, eyed the whispering crowd. She muttered, the ones who know nothing always speak the loudest. Justin approached her. Mrs. Martha, did you notice anything strange that day? I did, she said softly. I saw Natalie bring a bottle of water from the cold room. Said it was for Sophia. But she never asked Sophia. You're sure? Justin narrowed his eyes. Certain. I always notice the small things. Sophia stood up, screaming one last time. I'm not crazy. I didn't run away. I'm the victim. Will someone believe me? Silence. Then, click. The lock jiggled gently. She held her breath, stepping toward the door. Is someone out there? She asked softly. A deep voice answered, Miss Sophia. Is that really you? Yes. It's me. I'm alive. Hold your position. We're getting you out. In the upstairs waiting room, Natalie stared at her phone screen. She clenched it tightly. Justin walked up from across the room, his gaze wary. "Any news, Natalie?" he asked. "No," she snapped. "They probably haven't found anything yet." Justin looked at her for a few moments. "Do you hope they find her?" "Of course," she said. "She's my best friend." Sophia was helped outside, squinting at the harsh lights. Robert supported her. "How long were you locked in there?" I don't remember. I passed out." Michael whispered, "Lieutenant, someone is live streaming this. The news will explode in minutes." Robert nodded. "Get her to the hospital. Full security. No press." Sophia clutched Robert's hand, her lips trembling. "Please, don't let them say I ran away. I didn't do anything wrong." Robert looked at her seriously. "I believe you." Outside, hundreds of reporters swarmed. Ethan shoved past a guard, sprinting toward the ambulance. "Sophia." Sophia opened her eyes. She saw him, the first person she wanted to see. The only one she still trusted. Ethan rushed to her, gripping her hand. "You're alive, you're really alive." She burst into tears, unable to speak. And down the hallway, Natalie clenched her fists, nails digging into her skin. She turned away, the faint smirk on her lips gone. At the hospital, Sophia lay still on the bed, pale under the soft white lights. Ethan sat by her side, his hand never leaving hers. "Do you know what they're saying out there?" he asked, his voice breaking. "They say you ran away. That you didn't love me." Sophia closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I heard, a bit, from the nurses." "Don't believe them," he whispered. "Don't let them steal what we have." She turned to him, her voice faint. "Did you ever doubt me?" Ethan was silent for a moment. "No. Never. But I was scared. Scared they'd hurt you, even more." Not far away, in the waiting area, Mr. Gabriel was on the phone. "We're working with the lawyers. Anyone spreading false claims will face legal action." "Yes, I understand it's breaking news, but this is my daughter-in-law. This is a young woman's life." He hung up, turning to Margaret. "I know we've disagreed on many things, but this time, we need to stand together to protect her." Margaret nodded slowly. "I'll do whatever it takes. As long as Sophia gets to live her truth." At a surprise press conference, Robert stood before dozens of reporters. "I confirm, there is no evidence that Miss Sophia Bennett willingly left the church grounds. She was found in a locked room in the west basement wing, a section not included in current architectural plans." A female reporter raised her hand. "Is there a suspect, sir?" "We're investigating. But based on current evidence, this was not a simple runaway case." "Then what would you say to the public, those who claim she fabricated the whole story?" Robert stared straight into the camera. "If someone's ever been locked in darkness, forced into silence, they know the only thing they need is to be believed." The news spread instantly. Online, public opinion began to shift. Maybe she really is the victim. That old church could definitely hide someone. No way it's a coincidence. Blood, locked doors, someone has to answer for this. We jumped to conclusions too fast. That night, Grace visited the hospital, bringing the phone Sophia had left behind. "Your last message was to me," she said, placing the phone in her sister's hand. "I didn't read it right away. I wish I had." Sophia unlocked it. On the screen, an unsent message. "Sis, I don't feel right. Natalie gave me water. I'm really dizzy. If anything happens." Sophia looked up. I tried to warn you." Ethan stepped in. "Natalie. You suspect her?" Sophia nodded slightly, her gaze distant. "Not just suspect. I know. At a cafe near the hospital, Justin sat across from Natalie. "You heard?" he asked. "The police are reviewing all the cameras. Even the edited ones. They found one frame someone in a navy dress dragging something down the stairs." Natalie sipped her coffee. "Plenty of people wore navy that day. But only you were the maid of honor," Justin said, his tone cold. "Are you sure everything's still under control?" Natalie met his eyes. "As long as no one has concrete proof, I'm still the grieving best friend. Remember that." The next morning, Mr. Gabriel held a private press briefing. Media was invited, but questions were limited. Ethan stood beside his father, his expression resolute. "I want to say this clearly, Sophia did not run away. She was the victim of a calculated plot. People rushed to judgment. But now, we're going to uncover the truth." He raised his head. "I love Sophia. And I won't let anyone turn her into a public joke." Sophia watched the press conference from her hospital bed, clutching the edge of the blanket. "I won't stay silent anymore," she whispered. "If they won't listen, I'll make them." At the end of the hospital hallway, a shadowy figure quietly peered through the door crack. Natalie. Her eyes were vacant. In her hand, the phone screen remained blank, no message sent to Justin. The screen displayed a single line. "I think, everything's about to collapse. The doctor says you're stable now, but they still want to monitor your mental state," Ethan said, sitting at the edge of the bed, gently brushing Sophia's tangled hair. Sophia didn't respond. She turned her face to the wall, eyes vacant. "Sophia, did you hear me?" She bit her lower lip and whispered, "I'm listening. But I don't know if I still exist the way I used to." Ethan took her hand. "You'll get through this. I promise." Sophia slowly turned back to him, her voice hoarse. "How long was I in that room?" "Over 17 hours, he replied. 17 hours that felt like a lifetime." She shuddered. "There was no light. The air was thick. I could hear people walking above me, but no one could hear me." That first night after being rescued, Sophia woke up 3 times screaming in panic, hands slamming against the bed frame, shouting, "I'm here. Don't leave me. Please don't lock the door." A nurse from the United States named Sarah, a petite, quick-moving woman, was often stationed beside her. "Miss Sophia, don't worry. You're safe now," Sarah whispered, holding her cold hand. "Safe?" Sophia murmured. "If you ever heard people say you ran away with a lover, you'd know what it feels like to be suffocated." Sarah didn't reply. She just gently pulled the blanket back up, wiped the sweat from Sophia's forehead, and whispered, "I believe you." That afternoon, Robert came to visit. He brought a file and sat across from Sophia, his voice calm. "Miss Sophia, we'd like to ask you a few questions. But if you're not ready, we can wait." Sophia nodded. "No. I want to talk." Robert motioned for Sarah to leave, then placed a recorder on the table. "Do you remember anything before you passed out?" Sophia looked him straight in the eyes. "I do. Very clearly. The last person I saw was Natalie. She gave me a bottle of cold water. I drank it, and felt dizzy. After that, I remember nothing until I woke up in the basement." "Do you suspect Natalie was involved?" Sophia didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Why?" "Because she knew I had a mild allergy to diuretics. Because she always knew how to win people's trust, and used it like a mask." Robert nodded slightly. "There's a witness, Mrs. Martha, the church housekeeper. She said she saw Natalie carrying a water bottle before the wedding. What do you think?" Sophia closed her eyes. "I think, it was all part of the plan." The next morning, Natalie came to the hospital. She brought a bouquet and a gift box. "Can I come in?" she asked, seeing Grace standing guard at the door. Grace raised an eyebrow. I don't think Sophia wants to see you. Natalie pressed her lips together. I just want to apologize. Maybe, she misunderstood me. Misunderstood? Grace narrowed her eyes. You use that word when someone drops a handkerchief, not when they're locked underground for almost a day. Natalie looked down at the floor. I just want to see her one last time. If I caused any harm, I'll take responsibility. It's too late, Grace said quietly, pushing the door closed. Natalie stood there for a while, still holding the flowers. A draft blew through the hallway, and rose petals fell coldly to the ground. One evening, while Ethan was reading over the police file, Sophia asked. Do you think Natalie hated me all along? He looked up. I think she never accepted you being by my side. But I always thought she was my best friend. Ethan shook his head slightly. Some people pretend to be friends just to stay close to their goal. When they don't get it, they destroy. Sophia lowered her head. And I let her do it. No. It's not your fault. You just trusted too much. Outside the hospital, the New York night was freezing. On a stone bench, Natalie sat blankly. On her phone screen was an unsent message. If you had chosen me instead of her, everything would have been different. She turned off the screen, clenching her hands tightly, her nails digging into her palms. From a distance, a voice called out. Natalie, the police have requested another interview about the wedding day. Are you ready? Natalie took a deep breath and stood. I'm always ready. But this time, her eyes held no confidence. Only confusion. And fear. In the interrogation room, Robert placed a file on the table. Ms. Natalie, this camera footage shows you heading toward the basement stairs. You were dragging something, which has been identified as part of a wedding dress. I was just going down to get something for Sophia. She left something behind. And after that? She said she wanted to be alone. I thought, maybe she didn't want to go through with the wedding. Robert leaned forward, hands on the table. Ms. Natalie, if you don't tell the truth now, the consequences will be much worse when the prosecutor starts asking questions. Natalie sat silently. Her lips pressed together. Finally, she exhaled. I just wanted her not to marry Ethan. At the hospital, Grace entered the room holding a USB drive. Robert sent this. Said you should see it. Sophia pressed play. A recording from the interrogation room played. I didn't mean to hurt her. I just wanted her to miss the wedding. I didn't expect the lock to jam. I thought she'd be found quickly. Sophia clenched her fists. She thought I'd be discovered soon. Or she didn't care, Grace replied. Natalie was taken into temporary custody. The news spread rapidly across every channel. Natalie Harris, maid of honor and best friend of bride Sophia, officially arrested on suspicion of kidnapping. A week later, police completed the case file against Natalie with charges of intentional kidnapping and endangerment to the victim's mental health. Robert stopped by Sophia's room, nodding. You helped bring clarity to everything. Thank you. Sophia smiled. It's not because I'm strong. I just don't want to stay silent anymore. A new wedding was held 3 weeks later, in a small house in Savannah. No reporters. No noise. Just family, a few real friends, and the calm of nature. Sophia wore a simple white dress, holding Ethan's hand tightly. The priest read the vows, and Grace cried from beginning to end. Are you afraid I'll disappear again? Sophia asked softly. Ethan smiled. No. You came back. And this time, you chose to stay. In prison, Natalie received an anonymous letter. Inside was a single line. What a shame. But every pawn can be discarded. She clenched the paper tightly. For the first time, Natalie realized maybe, she was just a small piece in a much larger scheme. As for Sophia, when she stepped out of that little chapel, sunlight lit up her face as brightly as the first time she wore a wedding dress. Only this time she walked toward happiness on her own terms, with no one leading the way. 1 week later. The court sentences the defendant, Natalie Harris, to 3 years in prison for intentional kidnapping and willful infliction of emotional harm on the victim. The sound of the judge's gavel struck firmly in the courtroom, echoing through the silence, surrounded by eyes staring at the girl below, some with contempt, some with pity, and others with complete indifference. Natalie sat still, her hands gripping the edge of the bench. No objections. No reaction. Sophia watched from the back, her gaze no longer angry. Just silent. A closing chapter. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around Robert. "Can you confirm that Natalie acted alone?" "We currently have no evidence of accomplices," Robert replied. "But the case remains open if new witnesses come forward." "What about the victim?" "Sophia Bennett is recovering well. She cooperated fully throughout the investigation." Ethan stepped in front of the cameras. "We won't be answering any more questions. Sophia needs time. Not pity." At home, Sophia trimmed a withered flower pot that had dried out the week before. Ethan stepped out, holding a glass of orange juice. "How did it go at court?" he asked. "It's over. Everything's done. Do you want to say anything about it?" Sophia shook her head. "No need. Not everything has to be shouted. Some pain, you just need to lay it down." Ethan smiled, handing her the glass. "But you don't have to do it alone anymore." Grace stopped by, placing a small box on the table. "This is the original wedding album," she said. "I was going to throw it out, but there are a few moments worth keeping." Sophia picked it up and flipped to the first page. It was a photo of Ethan looking at her in awe under a cascade of white petals. "That day, I truly believed the world was beautiful." Grace sat down beside her. "And today, it's beautiful again." Sophia looked up. "Because I made it through the darkest part." That afternoon, Sophia and Ethan returned to St. Grace's Church, the place where everything had begun. Robert was already waiting at the door. "Are you sure you want to go back in?" he asked. Sophia nodded. "I need to." Inside, sunlight streamed through stained glass, casting colors on the stone floor. Every step echoed like memories. Ethan held her hand. "That room, it's been torn down. No one else will ever be locked in again." Sophia stood before the altar, looking up at the statue of the Virgin Mary. "The day I was taken down there, I didn't pray. I was angry. But now, I'm grateful I survived." The three of them sat on the wooden pews. Robert opened his notebook. "Ms. Sophia, we found a short voice memo on Natalie's phone. Would you like to hear it?" Sophia nodded. Robert pressed play. "They always choose her. Even though she's weak, pathetically innocent, but they always choose her. Never me. It was never me." Sophia closed her eyes. "She never wanted me to be happy." Ethan squeezed her hand. "And you still found happiness. In spite of her." That evening, Sophia sat on the porch with her mother. Margaret poured tea. "Have you forgiven Natalie?" she asked. "I don't think I need to forgive her. But I no longer hate her." Margaret nodded softly. "I blame myself for trusting the wrong person." Sophia rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "Everyone is blind sometimes. But you never turned your back on me, that's what I needed most." In Savannah, Sophia and Ethan hosted a small gathering to thank those who had believed in them. Sarah the nurse was there too. When she arrived, Sophia hugged her tightly. "You were there when I needed someone the most." Sarah smiled. Not everyone lives to tell the story of being locked beneath a church floor, Sophia. You're stronger than you think. Robert arrived last, handing Sophia a leather-bound book. What's this? She asked. The case journal. The last page is blank for you to write what came after. She opened it, finding the final entry left untitled. Then. I'll write about a beginning. Robert nodded. And we'll close the chapter on an unjust ending. When the party ended, they didn't return to the city. They stayed in that peaceful countryside and began a new life. Sophia opened a small flower shop. Ethan planted grapes and started learning winemaking. Someone once asked her, why choose such a quiet place? Sophia replied, because here, I can hear my own heart. Here, I don't have to run anymore. One day, Sophia received a handwritten letter. No signature. But she recognized the handwriting. I'm sorry for hating you so much that I lost sight of what was right or wrong. I only wish I could go back to that very first moment when we were truly friends. Sophia folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, never replying. She simply told Ethan, some people are only meant to live in memory. And time passed. Every morning, Sophia watered her flowers, then sat outside her shop, holding a cup of coffee, eyes gazing into the distance. One day, someone asked, are you Sophia Bennett? That bride from back then? She smiled. Yes. But now I'm just Sophia. Let the rest drift away with the wind. Life went on. But the darkness was gone. And if anyone were to ask, does justice exist? Sophia would answer. Yes. But it's not always loud. Sometimes it arrives, as quietly as a peaceful morning. This story is a profound reminder that sometimes the ones who hurt us the most are the ones we trust. But truth has a way of revealing itself when we face it bravely and refuse to stay silent. In the deepest darkness, hope still grows if we don't give up. Justice may come late, but it will come. True love isn't shaken by rumors, and trust placed in the right hands is the brightest light. Most importantly, it's about learning to rise again from the hurt, to begin anew with peace and faith in ourselves.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.